Evening all, welcome to Sunday night is everything working organ music night. I moved the camera so that you can, someone said you couldn't see all of my head the other day, so now you can see all of my head and there's room to spare as long as I sit up straight. There we are. Good evening everybody, I hope you're all well. And tonight we're going to do some fun stuff. No Cam Platz tonight. Cam will be with us later. Cam is actually watching another live stream at the moment, even as we speak. But it's private, family affairs. He'll hopefully be along later. See you in a bit. Right, I'm still on the Lugana tonight. This was still part of Vanessa's Prezi from the other day, so there's a large glass of it here, so I need it. It's been a long weekend. All the fun of the fair. So, good evening ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Sunday night is Organ Music Night. And I say that deliberately, and you'll understand why in a bit. So everything's working tonight. The box office is working once again, thankfully. So you can see your names flashing across the screen, all of you tonight, when things work. Isn't this exciting? I think it is. So I'll be over to see you all in a moment. Now, what we're going to do tonight, I put out a poll earlier asking what hymn you would like me to play around with tonight. I've had a number of emails over the past month, people asking me, how do I go about improvising on a hymn tune, or any tune for that matter? And as an example there, we started with a fairly upbeat hymn there. It's one of the sort of hymns all about Jesus in the hymn book, in the German hymn book. Number 374 if you're interested, and it's a very, very old melody, 1676. It was tarted up in 1854 according to the hymn book here, and then they sort of whacked a new set of lyrics on it in the 50s. But it's a nice sort of a nice rhythmic hymn that does lots of exciting things, just to get the juices flowing for this evening. But I put it up in the old poll there, and you said an Anglican classic. So I'm going to dig out an Anglican classic. That's a metrical index. That's no use to me. I need an alphabetical index, because I can't remember numbers. Years ago I memorized all these numbers, but we will do that. Now, this piece of music here, I chose this one deliberately because it ties in rather nicely with an email I received earlier today as well. And you'll understand why in a minute. First, before we get into the music and into the improvising stuff, let's quickly say happy birthday to somebody who's maybe watching tonight or maybe not watching tonight. We don't know. But maybe our friend Jez. Jez, are you watching? I haven't seen Jez's name in the old chit-chat yet. Jez, are you around? Are you watching? Our friend Jez M wrote to me earlier today to say, oh, there he is, Jez is there, to say that it's his granddaughter Jessica's birthday today, and Jessica is 16 now. 16 years old. So happy birthday, Jessica. Let's sing happy birthday to Jessica. Now, I don't know if Jessica's tuning in tonight. I hope she is. But Grandad asked me to play happy birthday for you. So we're not just going to play it. Everyone's going to sing it. And Jez, I want you to record your singing of happy birthday to then play back to Jessica, should she not be with you and not watching. So I'll give you 10 seconds to set up your mobile telephone to record you, Jez, listening to this and singing along, and then you can send it. You can send it to me as well, ha 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 ha, so that we can have fun with it. Only for personal use. I would never ever dream of publishing it. Don't worry. Anyway, here is happy birthday for Jessica. Sweet 16 today. Happy birthday. Happy birthday, Jessica. Here's to a happy year. Jessica's watching. Splendid. Good for you. Happy birthday. Have a good one. And I hope your granddad spoilt you rotten. Got you something exciting. Actually, you're going to be 17 next year. So if you speak nicely to granddad, he'll get you a car for your 17th birthday. Ha 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 ha. How about that? There you are, Jez. Put you on the spot for that one. Cheers, everybody. And happy birthday to the birthday girl. I hope you had a fun day today, and obviously no school tomorrow because you've just had your birthday. You've been celebrating so much, it's a day off tomorrow, I think. Yes, definitely. I didn't say that. All right, back to the music then. Back to the music. And what we're going to do, I'm going to choose an Anglican classic like you polled, and we're going to take a nice, probably the best Anglican classic. And I said there's a link to our birthday connection here. She's got exams tomorrow. Oh no, oh no, no. What exams have you got tomorrow? Tell us all about it, and then we'll help you. We'll help you revise. That's what we're here for. We have some very intelligent people here in the Gartshore gang chat. So what's on tomorrow? We'll help you with it. Anyway, we're going to select the Welsh classic Hyfrydol, and I'm going to play around with it. Now, for you who might not recognize the name, you will definitely recognize the melody. Let me play it to you as an Anglican organist would normally play it in a service. He said playing a big French organ, but never mind. This is how it would normally sound, played exactly as written here in the hymn book. All right, easy peasy so far, nothing terribly difficult there. We have a beautiful melody. Let me solo out the melody for you on a solo sounding stop. Let's choose this. Now that's the first half, as it were, that gets repeated. All right, so that part of the melody gets repeated. Now, something we need to notice about this part of the melody is it starts on an F. It's an F major. The highest note is a C, and that's it. And it only uses those 5 notes. And if you listen very carefully, there's only actually one jump. So listen to this melody: step, step back down, step, 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 jump, step, step, stay the same, step, 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 step. All right? So it doesn't do very much, okay? Now, what we can do with that, we can actually, we can just use that as, we can just use that as the melody, and we can accompany it with some soft stuff. So you could do something like this. Play it again, different chords. Okay, so what I was doing there, I was just adding different harmonies or a different style of accompaniment to a melody. So we have a melody, an accompaniment, and a bass. Okay, that kind of thing. And of course for the bass I am using my foot. Check out my Christmas octopus socks. I bought some new socks yesterday in town and I've thrown them through the washing machine. They won't be ready till tomorrow. So yes, I'm still wearing my old Christmas socks because there's nothing else there. All right, so what we have a melody in this hand, accompaniment in this hand, and a bass down in this hand. Okay, so let me do that again. I'll show you what we're going to do. And then the melody goes on to other places. We'll come to that in a moment. All right. So all I'm doing at the moment is just taking the melody, keeping it exactly the same, and just accompanying it. So what you could do in church, for example, you could still sing along to that. The congregation could still sing to that. Is this me improvising on it? Well, technically, yes. This, I would say, is always your first step when improvising. All right. So we've had the hymn in 4 parts. Yeah, so this is, imagine the choir is singing, they've got 4 voices. We have a tenor, here's the tenor. It's not the most exciting of tenor voices. The alto voice. It's not very exciting, is it? Either. The bass voice. Ah, that's exciting. There's something there. All right, so the bass voice has the most exciting amounts of movement. And we have some things to play around with there. We have this fanfare at the beginning. Bum, 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 bum. That's kind of cool. And then we have these 2 little turnarounds. Dee, da, 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 da. Okay? And I suppose we have the dee, 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 but that's just basically in parallel to the melody. That's not really, is that so exciting? But I think we've got the bum, 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 bum. We can definitely use that. And dee da dum da dee dee. Get the idea? There's something going on there. So can we change that around completely? Let's now do something very different. I'm going to take the bass line as the melody. Apart from the sort of the end there where it doesn't really do verse, that's not a bad melody on its own, that's just the bass line. I think we could change it to that at the end. That's nice, isn't it? That's a completely new melody. It's part of the hymn. If I did the same thing with the alto line, would it be quite so exciting? It's not bad, it kind of works. I don't think the tenor voice does very much here. Let's jump it up an octave to see what we can do with it. Too many repeated notes, that really doesn't do anything at all. Now, what has that given us? That's given us something to play around with. The original melody. Let's take elements of that and elements of the bass line and turn it into a completely new melody. Now let's do something else. Okay, so all I'm doing, I haven't changed the rhythm yet. I haven't really changed the harmonies all that much, and I'm playing around with the melody. Now, what we can do now is play around with the registrations. Master Moose is asking, is that the Vox Humana? No, that was the Kromorn, the Krum horn. I have a screen, I think. Oh no, I haven't set it up to show you the screen yet. The Vox Humana sounds like this. It does actually sound like that on the real organ as well. Anyway, where am I? Oh, there. That's what I wanted. Okay, Anglican hymn, Anglican style, improvising. Let's say we're setting the scene before we play the hymn. It's the beginning of the service. The bell hasn't rung for everyone to stand up, and the organist is just noodling about in the background. That's what it's officially called, noodling around. So I'm going to keep the rhythm here so you kind of recognize what's coming up, but we're going to play around with it. Okay, so here's the melody. Okay, let's have a go. And so on and so on and so on. That was just one sort of run through. I think it's recognizable what the hymn tune is, but it's not exactly the hymn tune. So how could we turn it into something that's not recognizable? Change the rhythm. Okay, now I'm completely changing things around here, but what am I doing? I'm using different harmonies, I'm going to different places. I'm modulating. That's a lovely word. Radio hams out there will know what modulating is, but for musicians, modulating means going between different keys. So we have this piece of music is in F major. Question for the musical ones in the chat. What are the relative keys, not just the relative minor, what are the relative keys to F major? You have 10 seconds. Anyone paying any attention? Anyone paying any attention? Let's see. Master Moose Music is talking about music tonight. Thank you, Master Moose. What else have we got? Mama Major and Papa Major, says Canned Music. Well, according to the picture there, that's Joe, so no. C, F, B flat, and D minor. Well, F is obviously related to F, it's the same key. D minor would be the relative minor, well done there. C is the dominant, B flat is the subdominant. Yes, we can go with those. Anything else? Any others? Well, theoretically, any of the keys connected with F major. G major is not one of them, Marcus. There we are. Anyway, that's fine. It's not a related one. The related ones are technically, and this is just technically, okay, Q is not one of them either. A minor also, yes, you can have A minor as well. It depends how far round the circle of fifths we want to go, all right? Circle of fifths is something that we've talked about before, and I'm not going to go into too much detail tonight, but it's basically just all 12 positions, shall we say, within a key that are related to each other by the interval of, guess what, a fifth. What's a fifth? F to C. That's a fifth. So C to G is a fifth. G to D is a fifth. D to A is a fifth, okay? But that's going forwards. Harmony works backwards. So if we're going from A minor, where I got to by going from there to there to there to there to there, that was 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, that was 4 steps forwards. So if I go from A, 4 steps backwards, I get back to where we need to be. Is Jeff watching this tonight? Jeff Ryle, I've probably lost Jeff already, but no. The circle of fifths, everyone thinks it moves forwards. It doesn't, it moves backwards. Okay, that's just moving around the A, the D, the G, the C, and the F chords. All right, how many were there? 5. All right, and the most important ones are basically the last 3. The last 3. We're not including the chord we're going to land on. We're including the ones before that. Okay, so if I take the British National Anthem. To there, all right, that is the circle of fifths, and it's, we jump to an interval to D minor, G minor, C, and then back to F, and that's working backwards around the circle of fifths, which is the way we want to be going. Okay, and I can do this in this piece of music here. I can take any one of those keys and modulate around the circle of fifths. Let's start on A minor. Someone said A minor. Master Moose there. Okay. Back to A minor, D minor, this is all just circle of fifths stuff, G minor, C major, F major, B flat major, E, it's a kind of sort of half diminished, back to A minor again. Okay, now that's a lovely sort of meandering thing you can do all the time. Okay, it's half diminished, all right? Not E diminished, half diminished. What's the difference between diminished and half diminished? Something to do with the seventh. Anyway, but never mind. We don't need to worry about that. But you can meander about like that and it will always sound good. Actually, the middle part of this hymn is basically the circle of fifths. Not quite, but you know, up to the end there, it's pretty much the same kind of thing. Yeah? It sort of leaps out at one point. Actually, theoretically, you could get away with it. But it does the A minor bit. D minor, G minor, C, F. If I go to B flat here, now this is where it comes out. It comes out there. Anyway, circle of fifths. So let's meander about again using the circle of fifths. I will start in... Where will we start? Let's start in a completely unrelated key and see how we get to where we need to be. So we're in F major. I'm going to, in the most unrelated key to F major, that would be B major, or in my case, C flat. I've got to try and remember where the hell I'm going. Okay, so that's very sort of moody music, isn't it? It's not really going anywhere yet. I suppose we have to get to... There we are on F there. Florian, we are working on Hyfrydol, an old Welsh hymn, number 271 in the English hymnal. And we're improvising around on it, making things up. We're talking about harmony at the moment. We've already looked at the melody, we've looked at the accompaniment, we've looked at the form, etc., that kind of thing. So we're sort of messing about with harmonies at the moment. The typical, the old-fashioned Anglican way of improvising around on stuff. Let's take one flute stop on each manual, a soft thing on the pedal, and meander around. So we're in F major, don't forget, and we're going to start this time. Where shall we start this time? Start on E flat this time, all right? It's not too far away. So I'm just setting the scene. Let's have another flute. So there's a little hint of the rhythm there, but not much. Okay, I'm still in E flat. Now by adding F major chords to the E flat on the way past, I'm sort of creating a sort of film music thing. It's the Lydian mode. Do you need to know about modes? No, you don't. But it's a very sort of happy, positive mode. We're going nice places with this music. Let's go now to G flat. And do the same thing again. Maybe add some different harmonies on the way past. Now let's go as far away as we can get from G flat. That would be C. Ooh. Now, we'll keep the sort of rhythm thing going, but this time we won't use the Lydian mode, we will use the Dorian mode, which means we're adding a different sort of feel. It feels a bit more... What's the word we're looking for here? Still quite positive, it's not negative in any way. But by doing that, it takes us to F major very nicely. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to make up a melody on the flute, but use the rhythm of the hymn. Bit of the old circle of fifths here. Well, let's actually quote the hymn. But change the harmonies to stay in that sort of modally sound. Let's go back to here. Now let's head back to D flat. And we stop there. Pause for the effect. Maybe change the registration at this point. What should we change the registration to? Let's change it to strings. Again, very nice. Sort of pastoral. That's the rhythm doing that for us. Move backwards and forwards. Again, lilting. The harmonies move backwards and forwards. Sort of, it keeps us relaxed. Don't forget, it's the beginning of the performance. We don't need to be going any fancy places yet. Let's go back to D flat for the fun of it. G flat. Ooh. Let's go different places. But then, let's head back to F and then stay there for a bit. Ah, that's nice. Okay. Now, that sort of set the scene, hasn't it? Yeah? We're in a nice place now. We're sort of relaxed. We've centered on a key. We've got some nice warm sounding registrations. Everything's fine. At that point, your average Anglican organist would then start adding things and going sort of... Okay, and just sort of, again, meandering around, but eventually adding. Making the organ louder all the time, adding registrations. There's a very strict rule about the way Anglican organists do this. Always adding, getting bigger and bigger, up to full organ. to get a decrescendo again. And that's done by, that's the secret. Maybe it's time we sort of introduce the melody, but change the harmonies a little bit, so we're not quite... Strings again. See what I'm doing there? That's what we did at the beginning, isn't it? Add a 32-foot, rumble in the pedals, down the octave. This is all very sort of typical stuff that you might do. And of course you've timed it well. Let's meander about again, backwards and forwards, harmonies. Keeping a nice center around F major so that we're finishing on the right key. And it's finished there. And at this point, you stop and the guy down in the sacristy goes ding dong, 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 ding. Everyone stands up and the choir comes in with. And everybody knows what's coming. And so on and so on and so on. Now that's just basically, you know, an Anglican style of doing things, all right? That's only one way of improvising on a hymn tune. So what did I do? What did I, ding dong merrily on high. I once played that after, I don't know how much I'd had to drink before the service. It was a Christmas service and someone bet me, someone put money on me to try to play Ding Dong Merrily on High in the most bizarre style imaginable. And I was pissed as a fart, pissed as a newt actually. And I think I tried playing it in 5/4 time, which was very difficult to do. In the state I was in, I honestly don't know what happened. Those were the good old days. I was once this was Inverness Cathedral of all places, when I was singing in the choir as a relatively young person in those days. And we'd all been at the pub before the midnight mass service, and none of us were of age. We shouldn't have been drinking that much, but we were cracking down the 16-year-old Lagavulins. Or in those days, it was 17-year-old Lagavulin, actually, that dates it. It was 17-year-old Lagavulin was the big thing in those days. And I don't know how much we had, but far too much. And it was a candle-lit service. And we were marching into the cathedral in the first hymn. Well, first of all, trying to stand up straight. And we were balancing a hymn book in one hand, a candle in the other hand. Can you imagine what happened? I set fire to my hymn book. And I processed into the cathedral with a flaming hymn book. And I thought, I'm going to leave it to the last minute before I, you know, that's all you needed to do, and the flames were out. But no, I kept it going until I reached my place in the choir. It was hilarious. Nobody in the congregation rushed out to do anything. Nobody. Everyone just sort of thought this was part of the show, presumably. I didn't even get into trouble that night. Why? Because the choir director was equally as pissed as we were. Happy days. You wouldn't be able to do that nowadays. Young people don't drink anymore. Sad, isn't it? Sad, sad, sad. What is the world coming to? Anyway, there we are. Tut tut, most inelegant. Oh no, it was frightfully elegant. That was one of the more harmless things we did in those days. No, I'm not going to tell you the other anecdotes. They're very naughty. But yes, that was very harmless back in those days. Right, anyway, that's a very Anglican way of doing stuff. Now, let's look at a slightly different way of doing things. Let's take the same hymn, but we'll make it a sort of a French style thing, okay? So what we're going to do is this kind of thing. That's the kind of thing French cathedral organists used to do, not nowadays. Nowadays it's... That's what they do nowadays. But back in the day when they were still tuneful, ask David Briggs, he knows about these things. Back in the days when they were tuneful, they would do that kind of stuff. Now, then there came a time when it wasn't tuneful, it was rhythmical. And what the rhythm was, it was Pierre Cochereau on a Sunday morning in Notre Dame, in Paris. And he would do a sort of very difficult to keep doing that. He would get very rhythmic, but he would, so in the middle of the rhythm, he would have a sort of a mini stroke and then lose the rhythm and then come back in a different rhythm and then suddenly realize where the hell he was and come back in another time. And people have analyzed his improvisation style and said, oh yes, it's amazing what he's doing. I'm not convinced it was amazing what he was doing. I'm convinced he was just, he'd been on the cigarettes and the booze before the service, and he was a legendary drinker and smoker. He would quite happily sit on Notre Dame at the organ and chain smoke during the service. That was all okay in those days. And there would be various bottles of red plunk flying around the organ loft as well. So you never knew what state he was going to be in by the end. After the end of every service, by the way, in Notre Dame, he would leap into his Citroën Maserati. Remember the Citroën SM with the big Maserati V6 engine? And he would fly back down to the south of France where he had his house. And he would do this every Sunday. He would fly up to Paris in the morning with a probably hungover from the night before in his Citroën Maserati SM, play the services he had to play for, and then have some steak lunch, and then bugger off back down to the south of France again, in whatever state he was in, and at high speeds. And he got away with it. Police knew who he was and just let him go. He was absolutely amazing. I never got to meet the guy, but I did get to meet the guy who was exactly like him, and that was a guy called Pierre Pince-Maille. He was organist in Saint-Denis in the north of Paris, the first big Kevelaer organ of them all. And Pierre Pince-Maille was very much like Gartshore. He was a heavy smoker, a very heavy drinker. He would eat raw steak all the time. He was a wonderfully eccentric character, and his playing style is unbelievably wonderful. There are wonderful videos of him on YouTube actually improvising, and it's over the top madness, but you can still sort of follow along with what he's doing. It's not sort of, it's not avant-garde madness. It's still sort of logical madness. Absolutely wonderful. I'm not going to try to do any of his stuff tonight, because it's too good and it's too difficult to copy. Absolutely wonderful stuff. But these are the old school guys. They can't, no one can do it like they can anymore. One of the best improvisations I ever heard live, and I'm going to try to repeat it tonight. I think the registrations will do it for me. This was a concert many years ago in my old church in Bonn. In Bonn-Boyle, where I used to be one of the organist team, and it was a large Kevelaer style organ. And every few years we would have a sort of a jubilee concert, the 100th concert, the 200th concert, the 3, 4, 5, 600th concert, and things like that. And all these big sort of round number concerts, the team would invite all of the best organists from around the world to come and play. And of course, most of them were just French organists. Yeah? So we would always have Olivier Latry from Notre Dame. We used to have Yves Castagnier, the choir organist from Notre Dame. He would come to most of these. There would be a German organist, usually Johannes Geffert. There would be the mad Finnish organist, Kalevi Kiviniemi, remember him, sadly no longer with us. And then there would be one sort of younger organist. It was Felix Hell. Once or twice, did we have Felix once or twice? I can't remember. Paolo Oreni, the Italian guy, came and did it a few times. And then I would do the jazzy stuff. Yeah, but there would usually be one other French guy as well. And in one particular occasion, it was the wonderfully mad, eccentric François-Henri Houbard, who was the organist in La Madeleine for many, many years. And I always thought that the French organists were, hilariously mad, wonderful sense of humor, and just really good, fun people, until he came along and just completely outranked everybody else. An absolute genius of humor, silliness, madness, eccentricity, and Frenchness. And if you pile all of those things into one crazy organist, who obviously as well loved a drop of the old Vino Collapso, it turned into the most wonderful thing. And he played his concert. He didn't practice one single note for the concert. He turned up and just opened his music in front of him and went, pulled out some stops and registered it. I was turning pages for him, and he just sort of went all the time. What should I do? What registration should we do? And there was at one point he said, what am I playing next? I said, well, on the program it says you're doing this. He said, I don't know that, and just pulled out something else. Just absolutely wonderful. Just crazy guy. Wonderfully funny. I have some pictures of him dressed up in fancy dress at one of the crazy parties we had. I'm not going to show them because they are hilarious. But at the end of his concert, he did an improvisation, as all French people do in their concerts. And his improvisation was something like this. something like that. It was, of course, La Mer. And he went crazy on it for a while. And the thing is, when he started, you could tell he didn't even know what he was going to do. And then at some point he thought, oh, I know. And you could tell his brain just sort of zoom, everything fell into place. And then the intervals, all that kind of stuff. And it sort of all just happened. And then at some point he thought, right, that's enough of that. And just it all into the, and actually he had more jazzy chords than that. He was doing all this kind of, all that kind of stuff. It was wonderful to watch. And I burst out laughing because I, of course, realized what the tune was. And I was standing next to him. There was a camera pointing down like that, but from much higher, pointing down. And he was playing along. And I started laughing when he played La Mer. And then he looked over at me and sort of started laughing at me. And then he started singing La Mer in the most bizarre way. While he was playing, he forgot there was a camera on him. So the audience started laughing as well. It was one of the best anecdotes I have of any organ experience I ever had. The guy was a genius, an absolute mad genius. It was wonderful. And it was great because sort of the rest of the concert had been, not his concert, but the rest of this 400th, 500th, whatever it was, concert had been quite, had been played quite sort of, classical and very, not boring, certainly not boring, but very sort of academic, yes? And the audience was very polite and all the rest of that. And when he came along, one of the pieces he did that he hadn't even prepared, one of my favorite pieces that I still haven't played on the channel, the, yeah, the Lefebvre Valley, what is it? Something like that, isn't it? Something like that. The March in C major by Lefebvre Valley. He just pulled that out of his hat. And sort of, he sat at the organ and he literally, it was like watching Victor Borge. I mean, he's a... it's not how it goes. It starts in there, it doesn't here. And he was dancing about at the organ like this. All that kind of stuff, having a whale of a time. And he was laughing and whistling along with himself playing. The audience didn't know what to do at that point. And that was great because he was on before me. Because after he'd played, I came on and did all my jazzy stuff. So the audience who were there for all of it, they were really going for it. It was wonderful. He basically built up the audience for me to come and do my jazz stuff afterwards, which was brilliant. Absolutely hilarious. But when he burst into La Mer like that in that style, it was quite something. Now, there is another style of improvising we can go into, which is the very big German improvisation style. And I'm not going to try to do it because I can't do it. It's all about form and function. You take a classical form, like a symphonic sonata. Let's say the first movement of a symphony would be a sonata form. So you would introduce a main subject, a second subject. You would develop those subjects. You would recapitulate. And it would just be a wonderful, big, symphonic, passionate piece of wonderful music. It's great to be able to do it. I can't. I don't have the concentration to do it. I'm more your sort of free spirit when it comes to improvising. But there are people who can do it. And of course, the world master of all of those things is, of course, Wolfgang Seifen, Professor Wolfgang Seifen, who is the best improviser in any style. He can do it all. But when he does his big sort of symphonic improvisations, it's unbelievable. I don't know how he does it. I don't know how he has the concentration to keep going. He can, he can do a 25-minute symphony improvise, and it's not just meandering about, it's perfection. I mean, he has mastered his craft. It's unbelievable. I can't do anything like that. He can. But yeah, wonderful stuff. Anyway, right. That started out this evening as a little look into how you would improvise on a hymn tune. And all I can tell you is how I would do it. Ask another professional organist, they would tell you something completely different. Because other professional organists do things very differently. That's just the way that works. All I can tell you is how I do it. But yes, all the fun and games of how I would put together the improvisation on a hymn. So what we're going to do now, before we move, it's 11:30 already, before we move on to the crazy jazzy stuff, let's play a modern hymn. And I'm just going to dig out something from the back of this book here. Let's take this one. This is a very famous piece of German music, written by, actually, who wrote it? I'm not very sure, actually. The words are based on the Irish blessing, and the melody is, it says it's here by Markus Pittlik, whoever the hell Markus Pittlik was. But it's a beautiful piece of music, very simple, and this won't autofocus for you because I haven't set it to autofocus, but you probably can't see that, but there are, well, actually I can get it to autofocus. If I hold it there and press, I can't be bothered. I have to press all sorts of buttons on my thing then. I'll never get the focus back to me. But this is a melody with chord symbols in here. So it says F, C, D minor, A minor, B flat, F, C. That's what it's telling me to do. F, C, D minor, A minor, B flat, C, F. Now, if you were listening carefully, there's a melody there. Dee, da, dee, da, 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 da. Hold on, that sounds like Pachelbel's canon, doesn't it? Yes, it is. Dee, 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 da, 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 da. Okay. Very simple turnaround melody, very simple melody, harmony, bass line, everything to go with it. Piece of music is called Möge die Straße uns zusammenführen. May the road, come on, you finish up the words, come on, Irish blessing, may the road, you know what it's all about. Something like that, yes. Bodensee-Horn, our friend Ingo said it there. Did he say it? He said it in German. He said it's one of the most sort of hackneyed numbers you could find, and everybody just rattles it off in some way, and it just never does anything. But yes, I managed to hopefully turn it into something rhythmic and different. Oh, everyone's leaving. Don't leave because we're not finished. I have a request for a hymn, by the way. Our friend George. Hello, George. George from Bielefeld has requested this hymn here. A lovely, big, happy German hymn. It's a song of thanks. And it's number 382 in the hymn book. I hope you mean this hymn book and not the evangelical one, the Protestant one, because I don't have that to hand at the moment. It's over there. And I'm just going to do this one. You did say GL, which means Gottes Lob to me. So let's see what we can do with this. Number 382, Ein Danklied sei dem Herrn. A spontaneous request from my friend George. Thank you, George. Danklied sei dem Herrn. That's a wonderful tune. It's an old German romantic composer that wrote that, a guy called Joseph Venatius von Wöss, which is a wonderful name. He wrote a wonderful mass, by the way, for choir and organ. It's absolutely amazing. But the harmonies in that are so, it could have been written by Elgar. The second bit. I mean, that's just pure Jerusalem, isn't it? Absolutely wonderful thing. George, thank you very much for that request. That really brightened my evening up no end. To which end, we're going to press that button, and that button, and we're going to Theatreland for the final 15 or so minutes of tonight's cornucopia of crap. Yeah. Now, Master Moose Music has been putting all sorts. Oh, thank you very much for your super. Get off! My little daughter's listening to Happy Birthday music on my iPad when I'm not around. Rotten little thing. Yeah. Thank you, Master Moose Music, for your super chats and your lovely comments there. Yeah, you were on good form tonight. You're obviously very interested in music. Write me an email and we can have a chat about such things. Let's have a look and see who's been in the chat tonight before we do some theatre fun and games. Let's just quickly make sure. Yep, it's working. Jolly good. Right, let's just go back a bit and say hello to Master Moose Music, Robert Warner, Tim, Urza, Xingshang, Mike, Johannes, František, Opus, Florian, Robert, Martin. Hello, Martin. Bodensehorn, that's Ingo. Monica, Lucy, Bundy Row has arrived. Who else? Rasbuzz was here. Julian GC was here. Who else? Jazz. Am I missing out any names here? Good Chappie. Hello, Good Chappie. Lovely that you were here. A fine organist, Good Chappie. Gerhard Flink. Hi, Gerhard. Who else was here? Let's have a looky pops and see if we can get some more in there. Who else was here? La, 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 lee. Who else was here? Any new names? Yellowbird was here. There's Florian again. Andrew's on the QT. What's QT? Is that some kind of gin? I wish I was. Xenophon Sulis is here. That's lovely that you're here. Good evening, my Greek friend. Stefan Albertshauser is also here. Hi, Stefan. Wonderful. Right, there's a couple of new names there. Good for all of you. Lovely to have you here this evening. Go away. I don't want to type anything. There we go. Fine. Splendid. And on the box office this evening, it's working. 13. We almost made it to halfway this evening. Stefan M got us going on Buy Me a Coffee. Alexander. Hello, Alexander. Hope you're doing all right. John C. That was yesterday. John C came in yesterday. Thank you, John. There's Andrew P tonight. There's Opus. Thank you, Opus. There's Martin. Jeffrey Ford. Thank you very much. David S. Jez M. Thank you very much. Lucian G. Bodensehorn. Thank you very much indeed. The Platz Gang, who are out and about tonight. And Jan has just arrived on the scene as well. Thank you very much, Jan. Number 13. Unlucky for some. Let's not leave it at unlucky 13. Let's make it up to lucky 30. Haha, 30 sounds like 13. Ooh. That'd be fun. Now, on Friday night, I finished with a tune called Undecided, and some people didn't get the joke. Let's have a piece of music by Mr. Irving Berlin. Waiting at the End of the Road, a wonderful piece of music by Irving Berlin, way back in the good old days, 1929, I'm going to guess. An early-ish one for Irving Berlin, Waiting at the End of the Road. It's a cute tune. It's a nice sort of foxtrot, I think you will agree. I hope someone was dancing a foxtrot to it. Talking of foxtrots and having some fun with a piece of music, let's try this one. Walking My Baby Back Home. What a cute tune. I love that. I can't remember who wrote it though. Early 30s, however. Early 30s. Oh, we're still stuck at number 13. That's unlucky for some. Come on, let's at least make it 14 in that case. Come on, folks. Let's do it. 13 is a very unlucky number. What shall we finish off with this evening? I think we will do something really fast to finish off this evening. I'm not terribly sure actually, 1928, 29, something like this. Tiny Parham. Tiny Parham. That was his nickname. He wasn't tiny at all. He was enormous in all directions. He was bigger than Fats Waller. He was huge in all directions. Anyway, Tiny Parham came up with this tune. I think it was Tiny Parham. God, I think it was. Uza, check that, please. I think it was Tiny Parham. A piece of music, wonderful thing called Washboard Wiggles. Now, if I don't have a washboard on this organ, but I do technically have, what do I have? I've got castanets. Could that be washboard? Remember back in the days, a washboard, yeah, it was a kind of a rhythmic thing. You put thimbles on your fingers. Florian, thank you for making it 14. A rash answer there. They would put thimbles on their fingers and go and do the rhythm section. It'd be absolutely wonderful stuff. I don't know, a tambourine. Let's leave the tambourine and the castanets on together and see what it will do. I think that's probably what we're going to get away with this evening. Washboard Wiggles. Thank you very much for watching. I will be back in a moment to say tatty bye and see what we can do. Washboard Wiggles. washboard wiggles. A fun piece of music. Mike, don't remind people to mind their language. People can say whatever they want here in this day and age, and people can swear and curse and bugger and piss as much as they want. We don't mind a bit of foul language. Nothing wrong with foul language. The best of us do it. Did you know there are studies, people who do not swear cannot be trusted? My grandmother told me that many, many years ago. She said, people who don't swear cannot be trusted. She then added something incredibly naughty at the end of that sentence, which I won't repeat because it used a word that was too naughty for public consumption. But never mind, let's ignore that. Yeah, whatever. Say whatever you want. That's the whole point of this. Just don't talk about trains, please. What about those who don't swear in public? Oh, yeah, something wrong with them as well. One of my favorite anecdotes of all time, and yes, we have to finish off. This was years and years and years ago. I was at a public event in Germany. I was invited to this event. It was an official visit of the Queen and Prince Philip to Germany. This was back in, oh God, I don't know, 2000 and something. And I was invited to it. It was in Dusseldorf. And it was in Dusseldorf. I'm going to swear in a moment, all right? I'm going to swear in a moment. And it was a lunchtime gig, and they'd been out all morning doing some kind of official engagements, and they came to this place that was the Parliament of North Rhine-Westphalia, a big modern building in Dusseldorf, and we were up on the top floor of this building waiting for the two of them to arrive, which eventually they did. And you could tell that on the car on the way there, they'd obviously been having a bit of a fight, the two of them. You could tell that she was in a very bad mood, and Prince Philip was in a Prince Philip mood. Anyway, and there were groups of people scattered about the top floor of this place, and they would come in at the far corner. She would walk round that way, and he would walk round this way, and they would meet here. And guess who was in the group here? Yours truly. So anyway, His Royal Highness wandered round, and he couldn't be bothered talking to anybody. And he sort of wandered round all of these groups, shaking the occasional hand, and what do you do, and blah, blah, blah. Anyway, so he came round. He ended up at the group where I was. And he was with some guy from the British Army who was allegedly introducing him to everybody, but they couldn't be bothered talking to each other either. So anyway, so Philip arrived at our group, and he sort of shook our hands and chatted to us for a little bit. And then he looked at me and he said, "We've met before." I said, "Yes, we have. We've met many times, Your Royal Highness. Lovely to see you again, sir," etc., etc. And he sort of said, "Oh, this bloody waiting around for her to get a move on." I said, Are you referring to Her Majesty? He said, "Yes, look at her, miles away over there talking to people as if she's interested in what they have to say." And I said, "Well, she maybe is." "No, she bloody isn't." And he was in a right royal bad mood. And at this point, there was television there as well. And the television cameras had cottoned on to the fact that we were talking to each other. So they sort of zoomed in on the two of us. And Philip sort of turned away from the camera. He said, "Oh, fucking hell, here they come. Bloody paparazzi." And I said, "Well, it's the local television. I'm not sure they're paparazzi." He said, "Oh, bollocks to the lot of them." And he was in a really bad mood. And he kept sort of looking over to wherever Her Majesty was. She was still miles away talking to other people in other groups. And he was getting really annoyed. He said, "Come on, woman," very loudly. And people in my group were very embarrassed. They didn't know what to do. And eventually, Her Madge came up the group and she came over to us. And she just looked up at Philip and said, "You were a bit quick." And he just went, "Yes, I've been talking to Fraser." Remembered my name. I was very proud at that point. And she said, "Oh, yes, and you, what do you do?" So I thought, "Oh, good evening, good afternoon, Your Majesty, I'm blah, 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 blah." All the rest of that. And when she heard I was sort of a musician, she said, "You're not responsible for this lot, are you?" And she pointed, there was a sort of group of modern jazz musicians at the other end of the room. "You're not responsible for this lot, are you?" I said, "No, ma'am, I'm not, thankfully. That's not my cup of tea at all." And she said, "It's a bit of a bloody racket, isn't it?" Which I thought was quite funny. And then Philip and her sort of wandered on and said, "You took your bloody time." He said, "Yes, well, I'm trying to talk to these people. They're interested. They want to talk to me. I can't do anything about it." And she was in a group, and everyone in her groups were being introduced to her by the then president of North Rhine-Westphalia, a guy called Per Steinbrück. And he was taking his time to introduce everybody to all these other people. And when he came to our group as well, he said, "Oh, now have you met so-and-so? Have you met so-and-so?" And he said to the Queen at this point, "Oh yes, have you already met Mr. Gartshore here? He is a musician. He is responsible for Anglican music here in this part of Germany, and blah blah blah." And Prince Philip said, "Yes, we've met him. Now can we have some fucking lunch, please?" And he grabbed her, which is something he never did in public normally. And sort of they wandered off together to where lunch was going to take place. And I was left standing with Per Steinbrück, the president of North Rhine-Westphalia, and he looked at me sort of with big eyes, and I said, "Don't worry, I've known them for years. They're like this all the time." He said, they don't talk like that." I said, "Oh, that's nothing. You should hear them in the evening time." And he just looked at me, and I wandered off. And we all sat down and had lunch together. I was 2 tables away from them, and they were swearing at each other the whole time. They'd obviously been fighting about something all morning. It was hilarious. And then there was the picture roundup. Which was the funniest part of it all. It was just them and there was the local Anglican priest who was sitting beside her at lunch. There was some army people, British army people, who were still stationed in Germany, and there were a few other sort of important politicians and things like that, and they all sort of lined up for a picture. And Prince Philip hated lineups for pictures. He had no patience for them at all. And of course, there's a very famous thing of him actually on YouTube, swearing at a photographer to take the effing picture. And he did that day as well. The photographer was faffing around, making sure everyone was in on this side, and the light isn't very good here. And Prince Philip eventually just said, "Oh, just take the fucking picture, will you?" And everybody else was completely calm and quiet, but you could see the Queen smirking, trying not to laugh at her husband's joke. Wonderful, wonderful times. Very happy a long time ago. So, ladies and gentlemen, if you want to swear, you swear and you say whatever you want. Thank you very much for being around this evening. It was hopefully a fun and entertaining and educating evening for some of you. I think it was for me. We'll see you all very soon. There's a couple of things coming during the week this week, so keep your eyes out for that. And I am planning our next outdoor live stream. More on that nearer the time. Thank you very much, folks. Have a good start to the new week, and see you very soon. Night, night.